was watching national TV, and I look up, there's Mickey. You know, he's being interviewed by one of the affiliates out in D.C. because he had been following, you know, President Reagan. And I knew at that time there were some definite mental illness issues that needed to be addressed. Everybody talks about the substance abuse. Yeah, I get that. No, but the mental illness had taken hold. You know, the schizophrenia was starting to take hold.
Mickey Crowe, like many kids, was involved in many sports. He didn't realize his love for basketball until he saw Pistol Pete Maravich for the first time.
Pete Maravich came into the sporting scene. He was getting on the cover of Sports Illustrated. That's the first memories I have about him, seeing his picture on the cover of Sports Illustrated and hearing about this guy that was scoring over 40 points a game. It was really almost like turning on like a light switch how fast his impact was on me.
As he started to experiment with his own moves back home, he began his journey of becoming a basketball phenom in the state of Wisconsin. Mickey joined JFK Prep High School basketball team in 1970. He dazzled his teammates and spectators with his style.
When I was growing up, I was a big fan of Pete Maravich. And Pete Maravich had the floppy socks, he had the long hair, and the guy could score from anywhere on the court. You know, he was the guy that you watched playing college basketball. Just loved watching him play. And it seemed like Mickey took his cue from him. He had the floppy socks, he had the long hair, he was thin rail, he was tall like Pete was. The other interesting thing is that Pete's dad, Press, coached him in college. And of course, Mickey's dad was coaching him in high school and I guess after that as well. So there was that comparison.
You heard about the long hair, you heard about the floppy socks, you heard about the unorthodox shooting form, you heard about how he was basically a one-man show, you heard about how he was coached by his father, how he would pack gyms.
I mean, very rarely did I just take a set jump shot or just a shot from a set position. Almost every shot I took, I'd say probably about 90% of them, 9 out of every 10, right around that, were off of some type of a move, which I had to do because usually I was at least being double teamed, once in a while triple teamed, and always at least boxing one. So under those types of defenses, you better be able to make moves or you're not going to be able to get the shots off. Half of the accomplishment of what I did was getting the shots off. The other accomplishment was hitting about half of them. I like to do spin floater shots, you know, make a spin and then float off with a spin, that type of stuff. And I had quite a number of moves that I made, and sometimes some of my moves were not moves that I worked on, they just happened to evolve.
Mickey's father, Marty, was already a successful basketball coach, and he was overjoyed when his son showed a shared interest in the game. Little did Marty know, though, that the Crowe Roadshow was about to begin.
Real precision on ball handling. Well, we just didn't have those type of people. And so he decided, we're going to run and gun. And that's what took place about midway through my junior year, Mickey's freshman year. We started to really up the point totals and really open up our game.
He would irritate you to be great, you know. That's what Lombardi was known for. He would irritate you to be great. And he had the knack of irritating you in a way which didn't bring you down but built you up, even though it was irritating and it wasn't easy to deal with, but the results made it all worthwhile.
He was pretty hard on him. I don't think it was anything cruel or unusual, but he was on him. He'd get on him, and you know, at the same time, you could talk to Mike Novak and myself. I mean, as seniors, you know, sometimes we were the whipping boys too, you know, so to speak. You know, we caught the wrath of Marty. He's an intense person. He's an intense person. Probably one of the best orators I've ever been around, involved with. Had a privilege to play for him. He's just a very intense and dramatic person.
It was a father and son dream team. Together, they dominated the high school basketball scene.
was a certain place and a certain time, and we were the guys that fit into what we're going to do with the Mickey Roadshow.
Teammates, a number of them could have been really big stars themselves when they gave up a big chunk of their chance for stardom in order to allow me to be the biggest star I could possibly ever hope to be. I led the country in scoring, and they led the country in generosity.
He was the straw that stirred the drink, so to speak. You know, we got 2 guys, 3 guys underneath, 4th guy coming off the bench. I mean, that were really good basketball players. And yeah, it was the Mickey Roadshow. Because, you know, I was underneath, you know, I was a rebounder. Basically, that was my job, you know, defender and rebounder. And many times I'd be underneath the basket. I remember one weekend we had a Friday-Saturday situation. He put in 54 one night and 62 the next night. I don't care who you're playing. If you're playing Jones Junior High, that's impressive. And he was a sophomore then. I mean, I'd be underneath the basket, and he'd take that fall-away jumper in the far corner, and I'd be on the other side, and it was coming underneath, nothing but net. I mean, you could just see the air go out of some of the opponents, just their frustration of, how do you stop this guy? How do you stop it? These weren't layups, folks. These were 20 to 30 foot jump shots going up with people usually double teamed or boxing one, you know, some sort of special defense, you know, just because of him.
The gym floor got real slippery in the start, right by the time the 4th quarter started, the gym floor got really slippery. People are sliding around. If that wouldn't have been the case, I could have had 80 points because it slowed down the pace.
Gyms would fill. I mean, we couldn't play many of our home games. I mean, we had a conference at the time. We were in a conference. His junior and senior year, he was not in a conference. Do you understand it? Those were all non-conference games. So we were at the mercy, or they were at the mercy of, well, yeah, we'll play you, but you got to come to our place so we can fill the stands and sell the popcorn. Okay, so everybody got to see Mickey Crowe across the state of Wisconsin, literally.
In 1975, he led his team to the Division II state championship. Mickey scored 45 points, but it wasn't quite enough. His team lost to Racine Lutheran 72-58, and the season came to a close soon after the championship game. And to honor Mickey Crowe for his achievements, both number 40 and 41 home and road jerseys were retired. Mickey ended with 2,724 points while averaging 37 points per game. This marked the end of the Crowe Roadshow and the beginning of a new and darker chapter of Mickey's life.
I don't think it was a problem, his substance use as a freshman or sophomore. I think it's in his junior and senior year where things kind of amped up in that area in his life. I don't know what the degree of the usage and abuse was at that time, and maybe it was just at the starting point. Maybe it was just the genesis of what was going to take place down the road.
Well, once my senior basketball season was over, right after that, I started to look for every opportunity I could to get drunk and to smoke marijuana. I used to sometimes get some beer and then just go someplace where outside where it's just I could be by myself and just drink the beer and then go to the bars afterwards or something. But a lot of both. A lot of times partying with other people and a lot of times partying by myself.
Drinking slowly crept in, and with not a lot of people aware of it, the big question remained. What college would this basketball star go to? Why did he go to Silver Lake? And who was to blame for all of this?
I think sometimes gets unfairly blamed for it. Did he push too hard? Yeah, but maybe he also fell in love with the fact that his kid was a superstar, nationally known. And I've said in other interviews, what father wouldn't kind of get caught up in that if their son was that big and that good?
Marty's a unique guy, and he never liked big-time athletics. In that era, he didn't like big-time athletics. He admired some of the coaches that coached at that level, but he always kind of had a hands-off, and I think that's how he treated the recruiters. I'm talking about Marty now. Marty is the first guy, the first contact. So Marty must have turned some of these people off. It hurt his development, definitely. Yeah, I'd say so. And I'd even tell Marty that to his face, There's high school, and now this is a different level. Things are different. And Marty kind of, as much as he's not here to defend himself, I think in the back of his mind he wanted to have that Walden Pond, that GFK thing again. And be it at Silver Lake, be it at UWM.
The case with my dad and me that we're going to Silver Lake with the intention of continuing to average over 40 points a game. I knew that wouldn't be able to be done. I was a realist on that. My dad was also. We were just concerned that I'd be able to play my playing style, the style of play that I played, that would be able to continue, and that was the case. I was able to keep playing my playing style, and that was important because the main concern I had if I went to some schools that they wouldn't let me make the moves, the type of moves I like to shoot off of and stuff, but that was still able to happen at Silver Lake as well as the other colleges I went to.
From a basketball star to an average player, college basketball was fading for Mickey Crowe as drinking became what mattered to him most.
And then once I started college, by the time I was doing it more, I'd keep track, I'd time myself, I wanted to drink a 12-ounce beer every 12 minutes is what I wanted to do, and I usually had 20 a day. Usually I drank beer, but when the whiskey was available or other hard liquor, I'd do that, or when it's wine or something, I'd do that. I drink whatever's available, but usually what I drank was the beer. And then in later years, I drink the malt liquor type beer, which is a little more potent version of beer. It's still beer, but it's a little more potent in its potency. So I drank a lot of malt liquor in the later years of my partying. But the thing is, once I was in college, I was doing it as close to every day as I could. It was very rarely a day I wasn't getting drunk and buzzed on marijuana once my college days started. It was affecting the focus. My playing ability remained the same, but the focus of how to apply it was distracted, quite a bit distracted by it.
And he said, he was using, but again, how much was he using? I don't know. He didn't use in front of me, but it became an issue. And I remember one time I went to go see him play at UW Fond du Lac, okay? And after the game, I was going to get together with him. Well, I was told to go to this certain apartment. Well, I went to the apartment. He wouldn't even answer the door. It was that, his use and what was taking taking place with him mentally at the time was starting to take hold of his life.
After bouncing around to 5 different colleges, Mickey's dream of becoming a world leader pushed his basketball dream into the background.
One weekend, our football season was over. I was going back to the University of North Dakota, my alma mater, for homecoming. So I'm driving on Highway 10, heading west, through Appleton. Who's hitchhiking on the side of the road? Mickey Crowe. I pick up Mickey. I says, Mickey, it's November 2nd or something. He was at St. Norbert's at the time. I said, don't you guys have practice today? It's a Friday. It's preseason. He says, yeah, but I'm not going to practice. He says, well, I'm going to North Dakota. He says, take me to Eau Claire. So I literally drove him to his parents' home on Grand Avenue in Eau Claire. And they knew something was up. I could see that there's a problem developing. Here's a guy with a passion, a prolific scorer, and he doesn't even want to go to practice. I dropped him off at Eau Claire, and Marty really didn't have an answer. He didn't know the depth or the immensity of his problem at the time it was developing.
I love playing basketball as much as I've ever done anything in my life. But the thing is, it wasn't just for the purpose of playing basketball. It was meant to be a mechanism from which to move off of to get into a position of world leadership as a leader in the United States and the world. And I was really deluding myself about that, but I first noticed these desires that I had to do that in early childhood.
He'd talk, but when he talked, it was a coherent conversation about what was going on, at the time. And he made perfect sense to me. I might not agree with all his stances on everything, but at the same time, he always had a pretty balanced approach when he was giving a conversation about politics.
Well, once Ronald Reagan was elected President of the United States of America, I looked at that as something that caused me to realize that I had to go there and question him.
Drugs and mental illness clouded his judgment, so without any job to support him, Mickey moved to Washington, D.C. He was paranoid that Reagan might not have the nuclear weapon situation under control, so he found Reagan's agenda and followed him with persistence, asking him questions. After witnessing a shocking event in U.S. history, Mickey resurfaced in the media.
Washington Hilton. To the right of your screen, on the president's left, is Jim Brady, the press secretary. Just as the first of the 6 shots was fired, you can see the reaction of a member of the president's party as he hears the gunshots. Directly behind him, blocked by a police officer, is Jim Brady. He goes down. Police officer Tom Delahanty was shot in the base of the neck. He's in serious condition.
I was watching national TV, and I look up, there's Mickey.
3 people were on the ground, including Press Secretary Jim Brady, obviously shot.
Well, I was watching Reagan the whole time, and from what I saw, it was a combination of shock, seeing his potential land right in front of his eyes. You could see the feeling in his eyes so immensely. It's a feeling that'll be forever printed on my memory.
Well, the thing is, somebody said that they saw me interviewed on TV when I went to the hospital there, and I wasn't, the main thing I was paranoid about is I was concerned somebody's going to try to set me up with Hinckley, try to make it look like I was working with John Hinckley in the shooting. That's where my paranoia really raced through my head. I started to get scared. I started to really run around in panic, worried that somebody's going to come and pick me up because I might have been set up with John Hinckley to make it look entirely opposed to what the facts were, like I was working with him on the shooting. But then after about 2 or 3 days passed, I said, well, this isn't going to happen, because if it was going to happen, it would have already happened. Well, after that, when I was homeless, I was hoping that if they found me, that they'd have mercy on me because they knew about me and stuff at Holy Trinity Church and School. So I found a way to get through the bathroom window that'd be open on a consistent basis. Then I'd go into the balcony of the auditorium, and in the back of the balcony of the auditorium during the evening, spend the night there. I tried to sleep. It was very hard to sleep though, because I was so concerned about being discovered, but at least I was out of the elements and stuff, the weather problems and stuff. So that's how I did that. And then for my marijuana needs, I would, you know, I wanted to keep smoking marijuana, and there's so many people smoking marijuana in the parks in those days that I used to go and pick up the marijuana roaches off of the sidewalks by the benches there, and I got enough marijuana on a daily basis to get buzzed 6 times a day. I didn't think that there's any chance for any advancement of my position in life by staying in Washington, D.C. any longer. At least at that time, I figured if there'd be reason for that to happen, I could always go back there later on. So when I went back to Eau Claire, it wasn't with the intention of just staying in Eau Claire, but I didn't figure I'd get committed by the court. That changed all my plans then.
Shortly after returning to Wisconsin and his family home in 1984, the inevitable occurred. His family could no longer ignore his symptoms of mental illness, so his older sister Maureen called the police department to have her brother committed.
The police came and picked me up. They took me to the Sacred Heart psychiatric ward. I waited for about 2 weeks, and they had a court hearing to determine whether to commit me by the court. I was committed by the court to the Trumpeldor County Health Care Center.
The most predominant psychotic symptoms are the delusions that go along with being paranoid, and these are things that are not based in reality. They're fixed false beliefs, and most of the time people that have paranoid schizophrenia are first feeling like somebody's always watching them, someone is always following them. Today they may feel like their computer is being bugged, that they have cameras in their apartment. They will sometimes hear voices talking to them. It's not quite as common as we used to think, but the voices are often accusing and very frightening to them.
I thought they were mistaken in committing me, you know, but then once I realized they were delusions, I remember thinking to myself, as depressed as I am, I think I'm in the right place now. It's kind of like dying in a sense, you know, to know that what you thought you're going to be in life, that you're not going to be. It's kind of like dying while staying alive. It was like turning it on like a light switch. The moment it started, it was as bad as it could ever be.
In 1986, Mickey was released from Tremblay County Health Care Center in Whitehall, and after that he lived in halfway houses for some time. After suffering from depression for 4 years, it finally escaped him in 1988. Mickey then lived in a rundown apartment across the street from his family home for 20 years, until he was moved to a public housing complex nearby, where he resides today.
But I really think that the fact I haven't had a working job has really helped my development in other ways that can't happen if I would have had a working job, you know. Eventually someday I hope to maybe do some work, you know, but the thing is I'm on SSI now, but I'm very active with my life. I'm not by any means just floating around not doing anything. I have a lot of purpose in life and a lot of sense of things I want to do and everything.
Even though he lives a simple and quiet life, his legacy still remains. Mickey was inducted into the Wisconsin Basketball Coaches Association Hall of Fame in 2009.
I didn't know if they'd be willing to give it to me because of how I flubbed up my life with the partying. I don't have regrets, just disappointment. I think if it wasn't something that was pretty much inevitable, I could have regrets, but when you have mental illness that is inevitably headed toward a certain direction, there's nothing really to regret because it's something that's inevitable.
The Crowe Show may have ended in 1975, but Mickey Crowe will forever be remembered as a JFK Prep legend with his long hair and floppy socks.
It is 40 plus years to the day, and we're talking about Mickey Crowe. That's how good he was.